The times I spend in silent prayer are pearls of priceless worth to me. No fear have I, nor dark despair. Your light is everything I see. You lift me now to blessed heights. On wings of song I soar above. In joy, in bliss, my soul delights to know the blessing of your love.
And now we will have a minute of silence so you can bring to your mind and your heart those things for which you are grateful and also your prayer requests. And if you would like, email your written blessings and prayer requests to rpeters5354@gmail.com. So our minute of silence is beginning now. Thank you very much, Brian. That was wonderful. And for today's daily word, the daily word for today is perfect for this service. It is thankful. And although everyone is muted, I invite you to pray today's affirmation aloud 3 times with zeal and enthusiasm. Thankfulness is my heart's natural expression. Thankfulness is my heart's natural expression. Thankfulness is my heart's natural expression.
I invite you to take a moment as you listen to the offering song. Take a moment to bless the offering you've already sent. Write the check you would have written in the sanctuary, or click on the give button. This is your opportunity to give as source of Unity Santa Fe, a source of your and others' spiritual nourishment. So I invite you to join me for a virtual love offering candle lighting ceremony, seeing yourself going to the altar with your prayer slip, feeling the joy of giving as you light a virtual candle and as you place it in a virtual bed of salt, and place your gifts in a virtual basket on the altar as Catherine blesses us with our offering song.
As I give, so do I receive, joyfully, gratefully. As I give, so do I receive, fully, freely. God is a river where abundance flows. Stepping into it, I accept and know as I give, so do I receive. As I give, so do I receive, offering my first and best. As I give, so do I receive, knowing how I've been blessed. God is a river where abundance flows. Stepping into it, I accept give, so do I receive, back to where my soul is fed. As I give, so do I receive. Thank you for my daily bread. God is a river where abundance flows. Stepping into it, I accept and know as I give, so do I receive. As I give, so do I receive.
So let's take a moment to bless our offering. In a universe overflowing with unlimited abundance, all the needs of Unity Santa Fe and those we serve are bountifully met. From every direction, known and unknown, expected and unexpected, our abundant good comes to us now. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all I am, all I have, all I joyously give, and all I joyously receive. So feel that joy, feel that gratitude, feel that generosity. Allow it to radiate out upon the world and bless the world and bless you as it attracts back more and more for your gratitude, for your joy, for your generosity. Amen. And so I would like to dedicate this service to DeWitt Bolton, who left his humanity on last Sunday, and the blessing he was to us over the years. And I know the heavenly choir is even more powerful now that he has joined it.
Our 2017 winner of New Mexico Gospel Best, DeWitt Bolton. DeWitt Bolton. Come on, let's get it.
Because love is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and he leads me beside the quiet stream. He restores my family time, and he helps me to do what pleases him the most. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. I am saved in his arms. Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in his meadow's grass, and he leads me beside the quiet stream. He will restore all of your health, and he helps you to do what he loves. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. That's why I'm saved. I am saved. It is love's when the storm. You know in your life it will rain.
Yeah, so I'm delighted to be back here with you, and I'm honored to be part of your journey, Bredlin, as a minister and with Unity of Santa Fe as a ministry. So I'm honored to be part of that transition process. So that's the topic of our talk and the topic of our series, Finding Yourself in Transition. The subtitle of the book really tells what the book is all about: using life's changes for spiritual awakening. Using life's changes for spiritual awakening. Now, we can awaken anytime spiritually. And spiritual awakening is when we get a deeper glimpse of the reality, the truth of who we are, a deeper glimpse of the reality that there is only one power, one presence, God the Good. Spiritual awakening is when it goes beyond belief to experience, to knowing, to a deep, deep knowing. Now that can occur anytime during our life, of course. But at times of transition, it's a particularly opportune time for that to happen and for us to open up to that process of spiritual awakening, because our usual way of being is interrupted. The quotidian, as it's sometimes called, the day in and day out normality of our life is disrupted. And when that happens, it creates an opening, if you will, in the psyche for spirit to penetrate. So it isn't that God has been playing hide and seek on us. It's simply that we have been too busy with, as Meister Eckhart would say, with the business of the world, with the business of the senses. We become enamored with that. And as such, we lose sight of who we really are. So times of transition are opportunities for us to reawaken and remind ourselves that that basic truth. There's only one power, one presence. And I am it, and you are it, and all is it. So the particular topic we're working with today is titled Endings. And an ending occurs, when an ending occurs, it's the beginning of a transition. So a transition begins when something ends in our life, or at least when we begin the ending, so to speak. Everything in our visible world, everything that we can see, touch, taste, and smell, has had a beginning and it will have an end. You know, whether it's a mayfly that lives for 24 hours or a mountain range that lives for millennia, doesn't matter, because each one has had a beginning and each one will have an end. The only difference is the number of days between the two. And for us, each beginning is a birth. It's the birthing of something new. And each ending is a death. Now, we here in our Western culture are generally not comfortable with any form of death. We typically will celebrate beginnings, but we don't often celebrate endings. It's important, just as important to celebrate endings as it is to celebrate the beginnings, because they are inseparable. They're like heads and tails, the two sides of the same coin. They're not really separate, a beginning and an ending. So let's talk about how we can wisely and how we can use a period of transition as a way of awakening. The first thing we have to realize is that if we do not deal emotionally, mentally with our endings, we will carry the unfinished business of the past into the future. And this is true for churches as well as for individuals, that we need to unpack the past, so to speak. I used to travel quite a bit. And in fact, I'm really, as much as Zoom is problematic, it's also very convenient because I can speak to a lot of people, such as you all, without having to get on an airplane and spend a weekend lugging across the country. But when I did do that on a fairly regular basis, when I came home, I noticed that I'd have a lot of dirty laundry in my luggage. And it was a chore to unpack it and to clean the laundry, wash the laundry. But it was very important because if we don't do that, then we're going to be piling more new luggage on top of the old. And pretty soon we're carrying a lot of baggage behind us, we say, because we're not unpacking it at the end of each experience. So unpacking what's unfinished in my life, what needs to be said, what needs to be felt, what needs to be acknowledged, what needs to be done in relationship with any ending. What's the best way to deal with an ending? Well, I sometimes say with tongue in cheek, the right way to do it is to not do it the wrong way. And of course, that's a truism, that's obvious. But I put it that way because we typically don't do it the right way. We typically do it the wrong way. And the wrong way consists of one of two ways. And so I think we'll recognize these. We typically understate or overstate the importance of an ending. So let's talk about each of those. These are two unwise ways of dealing with an ending. We understate the importance of an ending when we fail to acknowledge and feel the impact that ending has upon us. To be able to recognize the emotions, the desires, the grief, whatever it might be, maybe even happiness, maybe joy, but whatever is there, it's important to acknowledge all of it. To acknowledge what's unsaid, what's undone, what's unfelt. Very often we discount the importance of an ending because it's an attempt to manage the pain or the grief that we feel around a loss. Because grief is painful. And when we lose someone we love in whatever way we lose them, that hurts. So it's important to let ourselves simply feel that hurt. That's all there is to it. It's not healthy to try to bypass it. Now, it's important to recognize the loss and identify each loss. When individuals, when I did pastoral counseling through my church, sometimes I'd be working with a person who lost their husband or wife after 50 or 60 years of marriage. And, they would say, I miss John, or I miss Mary, or whatever. But I would ask them, tell me specifically what you miss. And they might say something like, well, I miss chatting over breakfast. I miss going for walks after breakfast. I miss getting an ice cream cone once a week after dinner, or the weekly movie, or whatever rituals we've had with people, whatever touchstones we've had with individuals. Recognize each one of these and recognize that that's not going to happen anymore. That's really the way grief works. We don't grieve an individual in toto. We typically grieve the touch points, the places where we've had intimate contact with that person. That's what we grieve. If we don't clean up our grief, so to speak, if we don't allow ourselves to feel the grief, we carry a whole lot of grief inside of us. And typically we do, particularly as Americans, as Westerners, we're taught, the famous line from Scarlett O'Hara and Gone with the Wind, I'll cry tomorrow. I don't have time to cry today. I got to plant seeds in the fields, and I got to harvest the crops, and I got stuff to do. I don't have time to grieve. Well, that may be functional. It may be helpful for the moment, but we pay a price for that in the long run. So the point is, oftentimes when we do have a loss, the grief that we feel is not simply from the current loss, the immediate loss, but the grief may very well be from prior losses. The classic example is when someone gets divorced, the grief they feel may also touch a lot of the grief they felt maybe when their parents got divorced, or when someone died when they were a child, or a lot of stuff from earlier in our life gets also cleaned out when we open our hearts to grieve. So it's important to not put a judgment on what's appropriate grief. Grief varies from person to person. So that's when we understate the impact that an ending has on us. We're not cleaning up. We're not finishing business, but we're carrying a lot of unfinished business with us. Now, the other side of the equation is that we can overstate the importance of an ending. We overstate the importance of an ending when we take it too seriously, when we see it as an absolute finality rather than as the beginning of a transition process. So it's important to remember that no matter how painful something is, we will recover. If we believe we'll never recover, if we believe we'll never again get the love or the whatever it was that we got from this individual, that it was tied to the individual rather than the individual being a vehicle. So I often talk to people, again, that have lost loved ones after many years of partnership. Your partner died, and it's important to feel that. But remember, you didn't die. Your life still goes on. You still have a life. And it does not dishonor your partner by acknowledging that you have a life to live without him or her for the time being. Although some conditions in life can be lost, and lost permanently, but we never permanently lose our ability to love and to enjoy life. We never lose the possibility of a new beginning, you see, because no outer circumstance, no outer relationship, no outer possession is really the true source of our happiness. Our husband, our wife, our child, our parents may be vehicles for divine love, but they are not the source of love. And so we haven't lost love. We may have lost what feels like their love in human form, but love itself is never lost. What's real cannot be lost. So the bottom line is, what I tend to say is, honor your endings, honor them meticulously, but don't worship them. Don't make them so important that you feel like you'll never recover. Take them seriously, but not too seriously. And so I wanted to mention that your ministry is like the opportunity to be a laboratory for practice, because you all are going through some very major changes. You know, the transition of a long tenured and beloved minister leaving the church. That's a huge impact. And you're coming together at some point in the future in a very new way. We're not going back to the old way. I mean, even though it may superficially look like the old way, well, the old normal is gone. And many of us also, on top of that, carry personal losses from this past year. Personal losses plus the collective grief of 500,000 Americans and what is it, 3 million, I guess, worldwide. It's a lot of people. And most of those people probably died alone or died without the comfort of their loved ones. So there's a lot of grief that's hanging around, so to speak. So once again, it's important to work through our grief, to recognize that it can be helpful to get some counseling. Counseling is not about taking the grief away, but it's learning how to process the grief in a way that's healthy and wise. To feel feelings as long as it takes, recognizing that grief occurs in stages. You know, there's the different people give different names to the stages, but we all know basically what they are. They're numbness or denial to begin with, and then often some feelings of anger or guilt, and then sometimes feelings of bargaining, and then feelings of sadness, and finally a recovery takes place. So each stage takes as long as it takes. It's helpful to remember that we grieve what we love. So if we're grieving someone or something, it's because we loved them. And that love is not lost. The love we feel is never lost, even though the individual may not be here in a physical way. So talk about your feelings, but again, let them be your feelings and not get, we're not talking about wallowing in the past. We're not talking about overstating the importance of the ending, but it's important to honor it. Honor the past, feel the impact of change, and then let it go. Actually, it will let you go. You know, we often hear people talk about letting grief go, but sometimes I say that we don't need to let it go. It will let us go when it's finished with us. So it's a natural process. It's something that takes place without us forcing it. And if we can be present to it, be present to ourselves, and keep affirming the truth, that's what sets us free. And as Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so that's really the bottom line is, my prayer is always, Spirit, let me know the truth, and let that truth set me free. So I'd like to just go into a brief meditation period with you, with taking those thoughts into a time of just noticing right now what you feel in your heart relative to this ministry, relative to your life in general. Notice all of the feelings and just allow them to be there. You know, pleasant, unpleasant, so-called positive, so-called negative feelings. They're very natural. And a feeling is something that just comes and goes. It has a life of its own. So all we need to do is allow that life cycle to take place. Welcome it when it's here, and bless it as it leaves. Once again, whether it's like the mayfly that comes and goes very quickly, or it may seem like a mountain range that lasts for eons of time. But it does come and it does go, beginning and ending. So trusting the process, trusting the wisdom of your own beingness to know what to do. And much of the time, there's nothing to do other than to be aware, to be open. And has been said, gratitude is the great healer. Gratitude is the great healer. Being grateful for all of it, even the difficult. Because as we live with the grateful heart, every experience can take us closer to the divine truth of who we are. So may this transition bless you individually. May it bless this ministry. And I give thanks that that is happening and will continue to happen. Namaste and amen. And as they say on the news, back to you in the studio, Reverend Brennan.
Oh, thank you, Robert.
To love. And it's time to remember where we have come from. So I chose to sing Amazing Grace tonight. So sing with me in your spirits, and probably on the last verse we'll bring everybody up to sing. That we should remember. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace my fears relieved, my fears relieved.
Wow. And that was Hillary Smith that he was singing next to at the end, one of our former choir directors at Unity Santa Fe. So thank you, DeWitt, for the difference you made in the world. So now I want to welcome first timers. If you're here actually for the first, second, or third time, I'd love it if you type your name in the chat box so we can welcome you. And if you'll email communications@unitysantafe.org, we will place you on the email list. And our prayer for protection, Unity Santa Fe style. The light of God I am surrounds me. The love of God I am enfolds me. The power of God I am protects me. The presence of God I am watches over me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Okay, so Robert, I know you only have a few minutes to remain with us, but I want to open it up if anyone wants to make a comment or a question about your message or about something in the book. I know there were a lot of people that this message must have really touched because of your talking about the loss of a loved one. And I was holding all of them in my hearts as you were speaking. So thank you for that, Robert.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions for our transition, our ending with me, senior minister, in terms of what it might look for us as a community to acknowledge and honor the ending?
Yeah, I think rituals can be important, can be helpful. And I don't have any particular kind of ritual in mind, but to have an opportunity, kind of like a burning bowl ceremony or something similar to that ritual at one of the churches I was in, where we had sort of like a burning bowl, but we also had a seed planting. So, you'd sort of put the old in the burning bowl and put the new in the seed planting. And so recognizing that the mulch from the old life, if you will, the apparent decay of the old life really is what feeds and nurtures the seeds of the new life. And I lived in Western Michigan for a number of years, and my favorite time of the year was usually in the fall, October, November, when the salmon would run. And the salmon would come up from Lake Michigan that would run up the streams and the creeks. And I would love to go off into the woods and just sit by a small creek and watch these great big fish come up and watch the salmon spawn. The salmon will spawn. The female lays the eggs. The male will fertilize the eggs. And then they quickly die after that. And then within a short time, the fry, the little salmon are born, and they actually will be nourished. They actually feed off of the decaying matter of their parents. And so it's just a beautiful visual cycle of how that cycle works, that the death and the rebirth and the ending and the beginning are interrelated, So it's not about let's cut off the old ending and burn it, but it's like let's recognize how that old ending and the ashes from the old ending are really the nurture the seeds of the new. So how we approach the ending will also influence how we create the new beginning.
Yes, I was just thinking about, I really appreciated the thought of gratitude. But just, I know Brendan often says, don't take the spiritual bypass. And I always, don't rush to the gratitude. Don't rush through the grief to the gratitude. Don't rush to forgiveness before you feel the feelings. So that's just my thought and question.
Right. I would totally agree. And gratitude is gratitude for everything. and sometimes it's hard to say I'm grateful for what I'm experiencing. But I can say I'm grateful for the fruits of what I'm experiencing, even if I can't be grateful for the experience itself. Sometimes that the mulch kind of, smells a little badly. And it's not pleasant to get our hands in it, but it is exactly what feeds the new life.
Hi, I just wanted to say I appreciate how you said celebrate. We always say make sure you celebrate things, and you said celebrate the beginning and celebrate the ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so when we feel grief or whatever we feel with an ending, it's because we love what we are losing, and so anytime there's a feeling, it recognizes that I feel grief because that person was important to me, or that ministry was important to me, or that whatever was important to me, you see, because it's not only something out there, but it's something that's a part of me right now. So every relationship we have is a part of us. And at the same time, we are dynamic creatures. We're not static creatures. We're constantly renewing. And to the degree that we can welcome the old and the new, the death and the rebirth, to that degree that we are self-renewing, organic and alive beings. But the ego, the mind, which is not the enemy, but it doesn't see the truth. That part of us that wants things to just be the same all the time. We don't want any changes. And I think we all have that in us in one way or another. And even if we're not happy with where we are, we want change, but we want change into something that we can define and control. So to be open to change without, and to sow the seeds for the next stage without getting locked into a mental picture of what it has to look like. Because reality is bigger than anything that our mind can contain. So anything that we hold as an image is really too small. Don't I always say, don't limit God. and a lot of people used to talk about, what was that, the maps, vision maps, prosperity maps or whatever. And I used to just put up there a big blank screen and say, this is what I want because it's endlessly possible. There's no limitation to it.
Well, I just want to say that I was, delighted with the fact that they're going to appreciate me each Sunday, because, wow, sometimes it's overwhelming when it's all in one ceremony. And I thought, wow, what a blessing. And and it's also important that we acknowledge everything from what we don't appreciate. Don't do that on Sunday, everybody. No, none of that on Sunday. But to acknowledge what we're feeling, because some people may be delighted. I think people are very happy for me that I'm going to follow my bliss. And I think there's people that have other feelings. And so it's important to honor them all and embrace them all.
Exactly. And even if the feelings seem to be contradictory, don't let that bother you. You can say, I'm mad at you for leaving, and at the same time, I love you and hope you have a good life. There's room for both of those. Even if somebody dies, sometimes we feel angry about the person dying, and the judgment will come in there and say, well, you can't do that, that's not right. But if it's what you're feeling, it's what you're feeling. You see, it's not about feelings. Feelings have nothing to do with truth. Okay. Feelings have nothing to do with reality. other than their energy in your body that needs to be processed. So that's something very important to remember.
Mhm.
You know, so if you're mad at somebody doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means you're feeling mad right now. And it's helpful to get that out in one way or another. Likewise with appreciation. So yeah, just unfinished business. That's really, you know, unpack the suitcase.
Right.
That might be a good symbol to have a suitcase up there with some. If you have anything in here needs to be unpacked, come up and unpack it.
Yeah.
That will create the fertile ground for both Reverend Brenda and for the ministry for whatever comes next. But if we don't do that, then we're taking the unfinished business from the past and we're going to plant that with the seeds of the future, and we're going to get stuff that doesn't work so well.
Yeah, and it'll impact the new minister, whoever comes.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering if there's some advice that you could give to somebody like me that has a mother that is very stuck in her grief, and there's nothing that can move her, and she doesn't want to do like any psychological therapy or something. I don't know how to help her. And I don't know if you have any word that I could something.
Well, yeah, sometimes the word stuck is our own judgment. We don't necessarily know what's going on in somebody else. So I think the key is to just be with people in a totally accepting way. Because if somebody is stuck, quote unquote, it's because they don't feel safe in taking the next step in the grieving process. So it may feel too scary to really let somebody go. You know, let's say I've been married for 50 years and my wife or husband dies or leaves or whatever. And I'm holding on to that person. I keep thinking about them, and that's natural for a while. But eventually, to let them go, there may be something that doesn't feel safe, such as I really recognize that I'm all alone if I let them go. I mean, I really come to grips with my own aloneness. Maybe I have to come to grips with the fact that I'm responsible for my life, and I can't lean on somebody else the way I used to. You know, it's like we really have to take an inventory and look at what it is that may be keeping us stuck. And we can't do it for someone else unless they ask. And even then, the best thing to do is just accept them for who they are. So love is always important. But love doesn't mean that we don't say, love actually means we say what's on our heart. You know, if you say, I love you, but I'm not going to tell you everything that I'm thinking about you. It's like, well, I get a little bit suspicious, you know. It's like, if I'm really in an intimate love relationship, I'll just say what's in my heart, what's true for me right now. And we know that love is big enough to handle any feeling. Love is bigger than any emotion. Love is not a feeling. It's not an emotion. It's much, much bigger than that. So it can hold any emotion. Just like a mother loves her child, and the child may get mad, say, I hate you, mommy. You know, and most mothers, hopefully, will just smile. Say, it's okay. It's okay. Because the love is bigger than whatever that, you know, and of course the child really loves their mother, even though at the moment they're feeling that hatred. So yeah, whatever needs to be said and shared, just remember that it's in the context of love, and we're doing it because we love one another. So I'll be back with you again in a few weeks. thank you for being present, and thank you for all of the good that you're doing in our unity movement. And once again, thank you, Brendan, for the beautiful work that you've done. You are the light of God expressing in more ways than one. So God bless.